The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Hi, good afternoon. We're on Mannin Line, open line today through till 1. Get on the air by calling 66 13 68. You can text 166 on 177, WhatsApp 166 177, or email studio@manxradio.com. Lots of stuff in the news. So if anything's piqued your curiosity, anything you'd like to opine on, then by all means, get in touch. Oh, by the way, just to remind you, there are a couple of public events today in Morton Hall, Castletown at 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock. And next Thursday, a week on Thursday, at the Western Wellbeing Centre in Peel at 4 and 6 o'clock. It's that Human Tissue and Organ Donation Act, a.k.a. Daniel's Law. Now, once implemented, adults over 18 who haven't opted out or aren't in an excluded group will be considered as organ donors when they die. The law creates a regulatory framework for human tissue on the Isle of Man. So, public meetings today, or public consultation, a public event in Castletown, 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock at Morton Hall, and a week on Thursday at the Western Wellbeing Centre in Peel. Go there and have your say. Just get more information on the whole thing. More information is good. Right, we'll get to the lines and see what's happening. Ryan's with us now. Hi, Ryan.
Hello there.
Hi, Ryan. You're live on the air.
Hi, can you hear me okay? I didn't get a response from you.
You sound absolutely fine to me, Ryan. Everybody else is waiting to hear what you have to say.
Okay, perfect. Absolutely perfect. Okay, so I'm just calling up today, a bit of positivity for a change, and just want to discuss to make people aware, or more people aware, of the current government energy efficiency scheme 2022. Marvellous scheme in my eyes that can help plenty of households across the Isle of Man, and I just want to make people aware of what it is, how it works, etc. Just spread the word a bit.
Okay, do you work for government, or what? Is this just a general opinion?
No, it's just to spread the word. I am actually one of the energy doctors that can carry out home visits. Home visits are also available through the scheme. And yeah, just applicants have slowed down a little bit. And don't get me wrong, the girls that are working on behalf of the scheme are doing a great job going out and about to the NSC, Tesco's, but quite a lot of people just walk past and don't actually look into what the girls are offering, what the scheme offers.
Okay, well, bluntly, Ryan, what's in it for people? What's at the end of the consultation if it's successful?
Right, okay, so products and materials are available to claim for free through the scheme if households are eligible. Products such as loft insulation, LED light bulbs, smart heating controls, thermostatic valves for radiators, amongst other things. The eligibility criteria for the scheme to enable households to claim the products and materials is a household income of below £60,000, or if that figure is above, if all earners in the property earn less than the median wage, which is £34,996, or if there's a household member that claims a benefit of some sort, also makes the household eligible to use the scheme. That is for claiming the products and materials. Every household on the Isle of Man is entitled to a visit through the Energy Doctor Service, which is a visit in person to have an overview of the property and have discussions in basic areas of energy efficiency. Areas that are covered include lofts, doors, windows, draft proofing, lighting, control over central heating systems, etc.
Okay, now does this apply to social housing as well?
It does. It applies to all households on the Isle of Man, whether you're a homeowner, social housing, private tenants. There are just a couple of regulations, if you like, in the private sector and social housing. All products are available to all people, but a private tenant would need to have permission from the homeowner in writing to access them, and the same for social housing. They would need permission from their local authority, commissioners, whoever it is that owns the property.
Okay, so you as an energy doctor go around. I mean, how do you decide who qualifies and who doesn't? What are the criteria?
So the criteria, as I explained, any one of the following three. This is only to claim the products and materials for a home visit. For home visit, any household is eligible. There is no eligibility criteria.
Right, so
eligibility to claim the products and materials is a household income of below £60,000. If it's above that figure, but all household members earn below the median wage, which is £34,996, you are eligible. And also households that receive benefits are also eligible.
Yeah, my point was, so you don't go in and actually check whether the house or the dwelling is actually energy efficient. As long as the income's less than that, they qualify for LED light bulbs, insulation of the tank, or this, that, and the other. That's my point. Is how would you decide whether a house is energy efficient or not?
Right, okay, so as previously explained, visits to properties through the Energy Doctor service are available. An Energy Doctor would attend, look at the various areas that I discussed just a minute ago. We make notes during our visits, and following a visit, we turn our notes into a summary or a report. That includes areas that we've looked at, what our findings are, and if we can offer advice or make recommendations, the summary is emailed or posted over to the household following the visit.
Yeah. Okay. Ryan, I just wonder whether you could, because I've heard quite a few people and quite a few tales about people who don't ventilate their houses properly, who think that they have to keep all the windows shut and obviously then suffer from condensation or mould. I mean, do you give advice on ventilation?
Yes, we do. That is an area that is covered. Obviously, it's very common. So yes, ventilation, the effects of condensation leading to mould, mildew is an area that's covered. We do offer advice as in terms of general ventilation, but there are also modern systems now that are becoming seen more and more, things like what you class as a PIV unit, positive input ventilation. So yes, we do offer lots of advice in those areas as well. What we also can include in our summaries or reports following the visit, we link useful websites to them as well. So I explain everything as I can, but if I've got any useful websites, whether it's to do with products or whether to explain situations, we also link websites to get further advice to households as well as.
Okay, all right. How do people get in touch, Ryan?
Right, okay. So the team are based at the Slue William in St John's. The telephone number for the department is 0808 1624 276. All this information can be found on the government website costoflivingsupport.gov.in, and if you wanted to email, it's energysave@gov.in.
Okay, all right. I presume you've got somewhere to go this afternoon, Ryan. You've got to go and check a house somewhere.
I have indeed. I've got jobs booked in for this afternoon, so yeah, I'll be on to the next household, and generally people are very positive, very appreciative of the service on offer, and we really can make a difference and help people.
All right, that's great.
It's a very good scheme.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Good to hear from you this afternoon. 16 minutes past 12. Well, that number again, if you want more information about how to save money, reduce emissions, and become more energy efficient, that number is 0808 1624 276. 0808 1624 276. And as Dr. Ryan said, you can get more information at on the government website, gov.im. A group which formed to oppose the potential onshore wind farm at Erestein and Skard has published allegations that ecological surveys are being carried out on the site without the correct licences. Now, the citizens group is now dubbed Care via Resistance, claims that surveys targeting protected species have been carried out without the legal authorisation required by Manx law. It says, this is Care via Resistance, says the Department of Environment, Food and Agriculture, and it's asked them for copies of all licences granted and claims DEFRA admitted no licences were issued until the 7th of April this year, 5 days after the department was sent the query. The spokesperson for Care via Resistance is Kiri Jenkins.
Obviously, any Schedule 1 or Schedule 5 disturbance of birds and animals is licensed under the Isle of Man Wildlife Act, and those licences have to be granted by the Department of Environment, Food and Agriculture. And it's worrying for us to find that actually only 2 licences have been issued to 2 individuals from Wardle Armstrong 5 days after we asked for copies of the licences. Of course, these ecological surveys have been going on for some time now. You may recall that Manx Utilities had said that common frog surveys were going on in water bodies in March 24, reptile surveys, this was putting down lizard maps, and that bird and bat surveys have been going on. So it is worrying to local ecologists to find out that they've been going on without the necessary licences. And it's alarming because this is a government body effectively. And, DEFRA have admitted that they wouldn't necessarily know whether a consultant had been employed on this project who would hold the licences for undertaking these surveys. So that's what's concerned us really. Because if government contractors are breaking wildlife law, how can we, the public, trust the rest of this process?
Another thing that I find interesting is the fact that the sort of resistance group isn't necessarily against green energy in general. It's this specific development. So can you tell me a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, we're working with ecologists, environmentalists, conservationists. We are not climate deniers, and we are not against moving forward. What we think is that this is the wrong project in the wrong place. And, we understand exactly what is up there, what is around the site, how important the site is. And that's why these ecology surveys are so important to be done properly and with the correct licences.
Kiri Jenkins, the MUA, Manx Utilities, has issued a statement. We couldn't get them on the phone, but they've issued a statement, and they wish to address the recent allegations suggesting that the ecological surveys are being conducted without the necessary licences. Manx Utilities refutes these allegations. Surveys are carried out using non-intrusive methods, and where licences have been required, they've been duly obtained. They say Manx Utilities is and remains committed to full compliance with all legal requirements and to the protection of the Isle of Man wildlife. And if anybody from Manx Utilities wants to come on the air and speak, then by all means the opportunity is always there if you would like to refute those allegations in person. And Julian's on now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. Just interesting that if we just take the resistance group out of the equation, just looking, if anybody'd like to look at a recent BBC News article from the 7th of April, which is just over a week ago, titled Wildlife Surveys on Onshore Wind Farm Plans. And if you go into that, this is from Alex Blake reporting, ecological surveys are expected to begin later as part of ongoing research into an onshore wind farm in the south of the Isle of Man. So, I'll just say that again. Ecological surveys are expected to begin later as part of ongoing research into an onshore wind farm in the south of the Isle of Man. So the BBC backs up the resistance group, doesn't it?
Obviously, Manx Utilities, what they say is that where licenses have been required, they've been duly obtained. So either licenses aren't required for some things, or what they're saying is that all the licenses that are required have been got.
Right. So the other thing they're saying at the moment from the MUA is minimally invasive. I'd just like to also point anybody to have a look for Manx Utilities website and search for the term Ecology Survey Timetable, where they say that last March in 2024, there were common frog surveys. In April last year, over 700 reptile mats deployed. Well, 700 reptile mats put on the ground at Erie Stane doesn't sound minimally invasive to me, especially if you think that what they're doing is they're trying to attract lizards to a different place from usual because they want to thermoregulate, as cold-blooded animals do. So you're changing their behaviour because they seek out places, and of course what they do is they use like tin or whatever, which holds on to heat radiation. So you're changing the behaviour of the reptiles to try and survey them.
How big are the mats, Julian?
I think it varies depending on, what kind of species. I mean, they're looking for common lizard, I think, there. So, I think there are variable. They have choices depending on, time of year and all the rest of it.
Are the mats, say, 2 foot by 2 foot, 6 inches by 6 inches, or, 6 feet by 6 feet? How big are they?
I think they're measured in feet, so, probably between 12 and 14 inches in square. I mean, that's something that it's not knowable without actually seeing them. They also conducted bird and bat surveys. So, I mean, let's put it this way. Let's suppose I go out in a boat and start bringing up queenies, and then I take them home, and then I'm caught. And then I'm told, I'm sorry, but you haven't got a license. And I say, well, okay, I'll get a license. Is that going to be okay?
Not as far as queenies are concerned, certainly not.
Or, if you're driving around without a driving license and insurance, and then you get pulled over, and then you say, well, I'll get a license, sorry about that. Is the chief constable going to pat you on the shoulder and say, well, no, that's okay, don't worry about it? That's not going to happen, is it? So, have we got a minimal kind of, this needs to be said. But if the BBC are saying that these wildlife surveys are beginning, and that article is a week ago, well, that's correlation with the BBC. So if anyone would, like to look at wildlife surveys begin on onshore wind farm plans, you can see the BBC, are the BBC lying about this?
Well, I mean, if anybody from Wardell Armstrong wants to give us a call and tell us exactly what's happening, or anybody from the Manx Utilities or DEF or anybody else. But at the moment, there's a thing, on the Isle of Man, if you don't get clear facts and if you don't get evidence, then skeet follows it. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does Mannin line. So if we don't actually know what they say, Manx Utilities basically say, nothing to see here, we've got the licenses, that's fine. Now, at the moment, we don't know for certain, nothing documentary or anything like that. So we wait and watch and see, Julian.
And, does this open up the potential that Wardell Armstrong might get sued because they've conducted surveys, and obviously not minimally invasive if you're shoving over 700 reptile mats around the place? Are they going to be fined for this, or does this cast a kind of a question mark over the whole project? I mean, if you're just going to...
In the grand scheme of things, is this important, Julian?
Yeah, I would say so. What if you cut a tree down, Andy? I mean, I seem to remember that Lamira Crane was going mental about the tree tunnel at St Mark's. So, you cut a tree down without getting permission, what's going to happen to you?
I mean, have you heard anything from the Green Party about Erie Stane? Have they actually said anything about Erie Stane, about their view of the viability of the site and the sort of the preference that's going to be there?
Well, curiously, I think the party, they talk about, cheaper energy and things, but I've yet to see how that's going to materialise when nowhere else on the planet has achieved anything more than more expensive electricity. The cheaper places are, the ones that are using coal and, go to Qatar or Sudan or Angola or any of those places, they're paying 1p a unit. So, and of course, remember we said that FOI revealed that the cost of green certificated electricity from the interconnector from England to here is twice as expensive as what it costs to make it at Pulrose. So the idea that it's cheaper I'd love to see that. I mean, there's an FOI on the Isle of Man government website that says it's 17.6 pence, whereas it's 9p to make it here. How can it be cheaper?
OK, all right, Julian, we appreciate it. Thanks for calling today.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
It's a survey, not a cull, says 376. What's the problem? And a message also saying, can you tell your listeners what local election candidates by law need to disclose on their election material they distribute, and what's the sanction if they don't comply, says Andy. Well, as far as I remember, as long as they put their name and address or who's published the particular manifesto, the election material, I mean, a manifesto is a manifesto. I don't think it's a sworn affidavit. But anyway, Andy, if you be a bit more, give me some more detail, we'll work on that. And here's a note in from taxpayers paying for private homeowners to improve their homes. It's not my idea for good use of taxpayer money, says Mark. Well, it's a government scheme. It's been there for a while. I don't come up with many good ideas, says Jeff, but why don't we do away with our so-called independents and do away with MHKs and replace them with one MP and help the UK out by taking lots of immigrants, says Jeff. I don't think it's going to fly, Jeff, to be quite honest. Isle of Man's never been part of the United Kingdom. There's no big push to become part of the United Kingdom. In fact, quite the opposite. If true, it's disgusting regarding that ecological survey. It's been undertaken without the proper process. Somebody needs to be held accountable for this, says Paul. And the Isle of Man has so many offshore wind farms. Why waste millions on a huge onshore one that will destroy the views of the hills, says Alan. Well, we don't have offshore wind farms, but there are some close by. The only problem is the electricity goes the other way, Alan. The Walney farm in the Irish Sea, the electricity goes towards the UK, so we can't just tap into that electricity. I suspect if we did, we'd blow every fuse on the Isle of Man. Here's a message in from Peter, who said, you can't make an omelette without breaking an egg. If we're going to have a wind farm at Eristane, some people are going to get put out. In the 19th century, we had mines across the Isle of Man with pollution. The Snaefell Mining Company, the Foxdale Mining Company, we had mines around Mackald Head, and of course one in Port Erin as well. So the fact that we had that big industry, I think at one time, if memory serves me correctly, 40% of the lead in the British Isles was mined in the Isle of Man. That was just one of those things. That was an industry that we had, and obviously it caused pollution at the time. People weren't as sensitive to pollution and environmental impact as they are nowadays, but we had mining in the 19th century in the Isle of Man. 21st century, maybe a wind farm. Is that just one of those things? Is it progress?
Hi, Liz. I see you've had your garage converted. We're desperate for more room.
Yes, come through and have a look. John called Manx Property Conversions. We now have an extra bedroom, but it could be another reception room, kids' playroom or office. They also did our conservatory roof last year. We were so impressed, we got them back to convert the garage.
Wow, I need that. What's their number again?
Call MPC on 450 500. That's 450 500. Or find them on Facebook at Manx Property Conversions.
We interrupt this broadcast to inform all our listeners about the huge range of bathrooms and showers on display at Pacesetter. Yes, you all know that Pacesetter is known as the island's largest tile store, but I'm here to tell you that their bathroom displays are truly inspirational. Visit Pacesetter on Harris Terrace, where you'll discover a fabulous collection of stylish bathrooms. There's something to suit everyone, with design available. Pacesetter bathrooms and showers to show off about.
As our loved ones age, they carry not only the memories of the past, but also the uncertainties of the future. Secure tomorrow today, with Man Benham's guidance on enduring powers of attorney and more.
Discover the work of the man who could paint the wind at the world's largest exhibition of works by Archibald Knox, right here on display at the Manx Museum, featuring exquisite jewellery, pewterware, paintings, manuscripts and furniture from collections across the British Isles. Visit Knox, Order and Beauty every day from 9:30 till 4:30 at the Manx Museum. Discover more Knox-themed events at manxnationalheritage.im.
Tonight here on Manx Radio at 5:30, join Kiri Kermode and myself, Simon Clark, for the last in this current series of Countryside.
I head up to Baljean Farm in Laxey to speak to the NFU president and farmer Ian Parsons.
And I went along to Ballagh Cricket Farm to speak to Vicky Sloan Masson on their fantastic news that they've been announced as one of the winners of the Holstein UK Master Breeder Awards for 2025.
That's all in Countryside tonight here on Manx Radio at 5:30. And don't forget, you can download and subscribe to the podcast for free at manxradio.com.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Thank you. Rob Callister's emailed in just to say, happy to help Andrew with his inquiry on all election manifestos. Should include details on who's publishing the document and should also include their address. It must also state Election Keys and Local Authorities Act 2020. If you need any more information, Rob Callister will give you chapter and verse. Thank you, Rob. And thanks also to 276 WhatsApper, who sent me some pictures of a mat this morning at Irishtain, one of the reptile mats there. I think, but I can't quite see because there's no human being in, but I'm guessing it's about a foot long, although it was waterlogged because it's been raining a lot. Everybody's saying that they don't want wind power, but nobody's talking about tidal power. This is 352. What happens when we have a few days of no wind? Where does the power come from then? Well, they say, I'm paraphrasing them, either big batteries or we get it from somewhere else. We got an interconnector, or we can flash up pull rows. Although, because if you don't use it continually, when you start and stop something, it costs a fortune. You only have to look at if we stop the energy from waste plant, it costs a fortune to cool it down and start it back up again. So if there is intermittency, as they call, with the wind, and the same with solar, then we need a backup. That electricity at the moment will be more expensive. No doubt about it, that will be more expensive. So when they say that we're going to get cheap electricity, I think we are entitled to ask, how cheap? How cheap is it going to be alongside what we pay now? And you know what we pay now, because I never shut up about it, 29p per kilowatt hour. Strange times we live in when green energy is deemed environmentally friendly, but the destruction of wildlife and natural habitats and green belts isn't. Yeah, I agree, it is a strange time, but again, I just go back to the 19th century when the Isle of Man was considered. The 19th century mines on the Isle of Man were regarded as amongst the richest ore mines in the British Isles. So there's a highly mineralised zone in the Isle of Man running east to west from, I think it was at the Ellerslie mine in Crosby to Niarble near the coast in Dalby. So when we had with the mining industry, and again, we're comparing apples and oranges, but the environment was spoiled, and it's been spoiled with longevity, because that's the reason we have heavy metals coming down into the neb in Peel, and that's the reason we're collecting them and keeping them in a field somewhere. That's the legacy of our 19th century mines. So we had industry and it had an effect. Then we got rid of it, and nobody complains about the mines because there aren't any anymore. However, if wind power is the industry of the 21st century, then perhaps we have to swallow it. What do you think? Mark's on now. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Andy. How you doing, fella?
Well, fine, thanks. I'm a bit disappointed in the weather leading up to Easter, but never mind.
Yeah, well, it'll be the same leading up to TT week, won't it? We'll have a glorious week, and then it'll rain every day.
Oh, thanks.
Anyway, that's not what I was ringing. I was trying to ring up yesterday, actually, but you had Ewan on the phone with his conspiracy theories, and I fell asleep. So I thought I'd better ring up today and just have a little chat. What I'm ringing up about is you had a fella on yesterday talking about referendum. What's his name? Onslow or Hounslow or something?
Anslow, Mr. Anslow.
Right. I mean, has the fella actually given any thought to this? Because the reason we voted MHKs in, and whether we voted them in they've gone in under false pretenses and have changed everything about their manifesto since they've got it, the fact that we voted them in is we voted them in to make decisions for us. I mean, if we're going to have referendums, what is the point of having an MHK? I'll give you a quick example. Say, for argument's sake, the Department of Transport, they want to buy some new buses. Well, wouldn't it be just as simple then to have whoever's in charge of the Department of Transport say, we need 10 new buses, we have a referendum, that we vote for it, they get the new buses. There's no point in having an MHK or a minister to back it up. And another thing too, let's say for argument's sake that somebody came up with an idea, a referendum to get rid of Alf Cannon, and 12 people turned up to the referendum, and all 12 said, yes, we want him gone. He's not going to abide by that. He's going to turn around and say, that is an absolute joke. And this is the problem with referendums. Sometimes they work, most of the time they don't. You just have to look at, when Labour got in and the Scottish Nationalist Party got in, the people of Scotland voted to stay part of the UK, but that little one that's just whatever her name is, she said that they were going to have referendum after referendum after referendum. Yeah. So a referendum to some people doesn't mean a thing. So what is he on about?
Well, I take your point, and the fact is, I'm trying to remember who it was. It was a politician years and years ago said that democracy isn't perfect, but it's the least worst option.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be honest with you, right? The two candidates that I've got where I live, I'm absolutely over the moon with them. They do regular surgeries. If you want to get in touch with them, they're at the end of a phone. You can email them and they'll reply. I've heard of others, who live in different parts of the island who completely forgot who their MHKs are, that they never see them that much. But we voted these people in. And because of that, we should stop whining about it. They make the decisions, and if we don't like it, then don't vote for them the next time they come knocking at your door.
So, do you think there's a kind of, how can I put this, there's a sort of a political kind of illiteracy by some people who don't understand that you have to participate in democracy. You can't stand on the outside and throw stones.
Exactly. I'm the world's worst person for it, Andy. I'll be honest with you. The second an MHK opens their mouth, I'm the first person to jump down the throat. You've got MHKs who listen and think and then say something, and then you've got the other ones like Michelle Hayward who just do something, then think about it later on. That's not a good thing. But we've got other MHKs who will actually talk to their constituents and talk to the Council of Ministers and then decide on something. That's democracy. Having a referendum on every single thing that you can think of having a referendum on is not a democracy. To be perfectly honest with you, you're going to have a referendum to decide if you want to have a referendum. That's how things will get. Yeah. And it'll just slow democracy down to such an extent that we will end up just being... It's all right saying a one-party state and stuff like that, but what's wrong with having people of different opinions, different views? If we were a one-party state, like Ewan said, it would be terrible, because they would then be forcing their opinions on the rest of the people of the Isle of Man, and we'd end up being subjugated to such an extent that if we argued, they would just turn around and say, well, I know what's best for you, not you.
What do you think about the people who espouse the electronic way and say, because lots of people say we have the technology nowadays, we should be taking regular dipstick polls from people electronically to see what they think?
I don't see what the problem is with that, to be quite honest with you. But that's similar to my other complaint I have regularly. Well, you know, because I ring up regularly to say about the steam packet not bringing the papers over. There are people out there that don't have access to technology. There's also just as many people who are frightened of it, because you hear these horror stories of hackers here and hackers there, and the second somebody clicks on their computer, they might be thinking, oh, is somebody watching what I'm doing? These things could be manipulated. There was a case in Birmingham after the last election where they found out that some of these electronic votes were actually mass produced from the same address to get a person elected in Birmingham. The paper vote, you go into a booth, you sign your cross, you put it in, that can't be messed about with. Electronic voting can be. But having said that, I do not see the problem with getting an email from, whoever, the census office, pick and save 600 or 1,000 people at random and sending an email saying, are we doing a good job? Are you satisfied with the way the democracy runs on the Isle of Man? Yes, no, end of story. That is a straw poll, and if they don't like it and they get the majority of people saying, actually, no, we don't like it, they can do a follow-up. Well, what can we do to change it?
Okay, all right.
That's democracy.
Appreciate it, Mark. Thanks for calling.
You're welcome, my friend. Have a good day.
Cheers now. 19 minutes before 1. The island uses power from the offshore wind farms every day through the undersea cable. That's why I don't see the point of turbines here, says Alan. Indeed, we use a mixture of power, obviously, because our interconnector is connected to Bispam in Blackpool, and presumably they'll get a mixture of electricity. I don't think it's kind of identifiable. Obviously, they'll know where it's coming from, whether it's coming from nuclear power stations, including the 2 next to Heysham Port, whether they're from wind power or solar power, or a gas-powered power station. Thank you, Boris. Could you announce that the entries for the 54th World Tin Bath Championships are now open? Thank you for that. worldtinbath.com. We're still reaping the pollution from the mines. Peel Marina, for example, where the mud is toxic. Nobody knows what to do with it when we're dredged. Yeah, and that's my point, in that we are suffering from 19th century industry. They didn't know that at the time. I wouldn't think they cared at the time. Lead was seen as a very important metal. It was used in all. I mean, it was plumbing material for a start. So lead was very, very useful. Let me just pose something. Let me just postulate. Let me just give you a for instance. What would happen if a clever so-and-so from a mining engineer suddenly went down one of the old mine shafts and said, you've got lithium here, boys? Now, lithium is very, very popular nowadays. What would you say to that? What would you say if suddenly we had lithium deposits and they were worth billions? Would that be worth reopening a mine? Technology for the future, you see. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? Eddie's on now. Hi, Eddie.
You all right?
Very well, Eddie. What's on your mind?
Well, you're talking about lithium and things there, aren't you? Yeah. I think I've mentioned this quite a few times. The 5 most deadliest chemical elements, 2 of them in that top 5 are lithium and cadmium. So what you're saying is exactly right. Why are we not learning from the lessons learned in the past? That killed an awful lot of people on the Isle of Man. We know that. It's also polluted the land. If you wanted to go ahead with these stupid wind turbines, you would need the battery backup, lithium and cadmium. And those are as unreliable as it's shown throughout the world. We've had fires in Cumbria where the batteries have exploded. They are so critical, that they could go up at any time. We've seen cars and everything going up. We've seen buses burning. The 2 chemicals that you're talking about are, in my opinion, something you've got to stay as clear away from them. Stay as clear, as far away as possible.
Well, at the moment, what the world seems to be doing is outsourcing that lithium mining to third world countries. I mean, China is opening lithium mines in Indonesia and places like that. So, I mean, these are often third world countries that need the money. And so we're using all those heavy metals in, as you say, in batteries and mobile phones and what have you, but other people are reaping the consequences.
Do you remember the article I sent to you about the lake in
Yes, I do.
Mongolia?
Yeah, I do.
Well, this is what is happening. You've got Trump at the moment saying about China and all this unfairness. The labour that they use is illegal. In our eyes, we couldn't do the same mining as they do, but we're buying all the little electrical products without even thinking about where they come from. A couple of other points I want to get at is there's an awful lot in the news about Wardell Armstrong. Why is our government paying more money to have yet another survey done by the biggest amateur load of idiots I've ever come across in my life?
Well, I'm sure. Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute, Eddie. I'm sure they're professionals. And I'm sure they're not idiots. So let's start there. Let's not be rude about people we don't know.
Well, is it true or untrue that last year they were carrying out a bird survey and drilling at identical times? You'd have to be an idiot to do that. I am sorry, Andy, but you've got to be blunt sometimes. And this lot that are here now, who's lying again? How many times have I asked this question? Somebody is lying along the line. Did they have a license or did they not? Government, tell us yes or no. They can't say yes or no these days, this government. There's something wrong behind the scenes. Tell us the truth. That's all we ask for, because right at the beginning of all this government, they said transparency.
Oh, crikey.
We're not getting
You couldn't
any.
move for transparency, Eddie.
Exactly, but we're not getting any at all. Okay. Honestly, I can't believe it.
All right, Eddie, we appreciate your call. Thanks today, and we hope to find out. I mean, Manx Utilities have given us a statement. As I say, I'd be happy to put them on the air if they want to come and actually speak and tell us what their view is. But anyway, the written statement said any licences that they should have had, they did have. A note in from WhatsApp 923 says John Anslow wasn't advocating a referendum on everything, just capital projects which government has proved are too big for them, which they've squandered millions on and have rarely improved anything. Text, email, call and WhatsApp for Mannin Line today. Did you see this story about the Chief Minister's told a Tynwald committee that establishing a permanent Manx representation at Westminster would cost several £100,000? Mr Cannon was responding to the Constitutional, Legal Affairs and Justice Committee, CLAJ, after the Speaker of the House of Commons suggested the Isle of Man is underrepresented in the UK. In November, Tynwald debated a report which recommended a series of constitutional reforms, including stationing a permanent Isle of Man representative in Westminster, inside Westminster. Mr Cannon said, well, we have to balance things, the financial cost against what it would do for us.
Coming to terms with the value of a representative office, remains a big question. We do a lot of engagement in terms of we now have a quarterly program of visits from myself and the Director of External Relations, and we undertake to have calls and communications on an ongoing basis. Getting the balance right between a proper representative office, something that properly represents the Isle of Man externally as well in terms of the visuals impact of an office, versus getting a shoebox on the 5th floor of a random building. It's a difficult balance to take, and also the numbers of staff that are required. I would suggest we'll need as a minimum 2 staff, and there's going to be additional support, probably secretarial support and other costs associated with it. It's probably fair to say that we would not be short of a few £100,000 in terms of that investment, in terms of everything that would come with it, including the staff numbers. And also one needs to balance that out between the economic benefits as well, because I think there is an overlap, and Jersey certainly from their perspective have that political representation, but they also have economic representation down there. But it's about getting the balance right, and we haven't got to that stage yet of just really being clear what are the tangible benefits of a London office and what we would actually want in terms of its profile and responsibilities.
Have you got any thoughts on this? Well, I mean, Mr Cannon's been upfront straight away and saying several £100,000 to get representation, permanent representation, not just those quarterly meetings. He did indicate that Jersey, one of the Channel Islands, does have representation there. He didn't mention Guernsey, and nor Gibraltar either. although obviously Gibraltar is a slightly different case. However, would you think that this will benefit us to have a permanent representation in Westminster from somebody for the Isle of Man, to be banging the drum on behalf of the Isle of Man?
Spectrum Windows. If your house needs a new look and your windows let in rain, keep those cold breezes out and make it look like new again. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Quality through and through. Great work guaranteed to you. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Spectrum Windows.
Road racing is back on the island, and Manx Radio 1368 will be an essential part of it, bringing live practice and race commentary, news, travel and more to the island and the world on AM, online and digital. With airtime, sponsorship and digital advertising options available now, it's your chance to reach a global motorsports audience. So contact our sales team on 682 620 or on sales@manxradio.com. Manx Radio 1368, the best biking station in the world.
The island's specialists in high-quality bespoke garden and landscaping products, Green Valley Farm Supplies, have a brand new website.
Yes, just visit greenvalley.im for everything from composite decking, fencing, greenhouses, garden furniture, and their stunning bespoke driveway gates.
All delivered and installed island-wide. That's greenvalley.im, your new favourite source for all your landscaping and garden needs.
Green Valley Farm Supplies' new website, now live, greenvalley.im.
Manx Drama Federation Easter Festival of Plays, Saturday the 19th of April at 7:30pm. Goodbye Piccadilly Productions are presenting Shelter by Jenny Derbyshire, a drama, followed by the Russian Players presenting A Bench at the Edge by Luigi Januzzi, a dramatic comedy. For more details on all of the plays, go online to villagaiety.com or call the box office 600 555.
It's a special Easter broadcast this weekend from Radio Caroline North, live on board the Ross Revenge. We'll hear from Captain Stephen Carter, who tells us what Caroline cod was all about in Ramsey Bay in the 1960s. And we have 3 elegant Martin's Easter hampers to give away. Our broadcast is sponsored by Feature Story News, and it all starts Good Friday morning at 10 on 1368 AM, DAB and online, Radio Caroline North.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
7 minutes before 1. How did you enjoy the rally at the weekend, by the way? It seemed to be very successful. 18 special stages, around 120 road miles, linked with 120 competitive miles as well. So it seemed to go over it. They had the best of the weather, certainly. But anything to report? Text, email, call and WhatsApp. And thank you to Donald in Glenvine. Also to Kathy in Onken, who dropped me a note just to say it was really nice to hear you pay tribute to the late Chris Crookall, one of Manx Radio's original DJs, radio presenters, if you like, announcers, who passed away recently in Canada at the age of 85. More than happy to do that, Donald and Kathy. I've been affected by the breast clinic. It was me who got Claire Christian involved, says this correspondent. It's appalling we don't have a breast radiologist, as my now urgent 2-week scan is going to be at least 6 weeks unless I go private in the UK and be seen Thursday in Manchester. Breast clinics are amazing. We need to keep them on the Isle of Man. Thanks for that. And also a message in that just said there were very few mines in Niarbol, Robert. Yes, Robert, thank you. I appreciate that. But the deposits went up to Niarbol. But point taken. Thanks for that. Why are we worried, says D, why are we worried about some mice and a couple of frogs down south when there are 300,000 dead or dying ash trees on the Isle of Man, which will either be cut down or fall down in the next few years, and I guarantee one of them will land on the odd frog's head. But it will help waste some money anyway, says D. Nobody is suggesting that we have a referendum for everything, but on big issues like the wind farm, it could be added to the national vote every election time, says Mark. Sounds like the Chief Minister isn't looking to the future when he doesn't get re-elected to the House of Keys. My word. It's Mystic Meg. He might be wanting to put himself forward for the link between the Isle of Man and London. Well, thank you for that, 648. That's your take on it, and obviously that's your opinion. a message in that just tells me last time we had some banging of the drums. The Chief Minister at the time, the UK Chancellor, halved our VAT rebate, says David, so maybe we should keep quiet. Why look at old technology like wind turbines? By the time those wind turbines are installed here, hydrogen turbines will be developed. So we need to leapfrog that technology. Stay steady and wait for the proper technology to come through. Thank you, Mike, and also for Dennis with similar opinions on that. Let me see. Let's have a look here. A note in that just said, you said yesterday there was no evidence for chemtrails. The evidence is outside in the sky. You just simply have to look up, says 789. Right, okay. The trouble is, if you believe in chemtrails, I don't think there's much I can say, to be quite honest. Wildlife and biosphere protection on the Isle of Man, a contradiction in itself after the destruction of Waterworld Bird Sanctuary at Balaf Currachs, which is part of Ramsar, says CC. Why no one seems to be interested after 3 years of chasing different departments. Still no action in restoring the wetlands. They're still draining, redirecting water, killing trees, sabotage and trespass. The effects on the wildlife habit is cruel and not acceptable. Is it lawful? CC on 775. That's it. Back with another open line tomorrow, Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks to Chris on the phone.
WINT.